Welcome to Between the Reads, a podcast about Black books. I'm your host, Audra Russell. Welcome to Season 3. There are so many great new things happening this year with the podcast, and I can't do it without your support. So please consider heading over to patreon.com/betweenthereads to join. Are you ready, Booze and Bros? Then sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Talia Clay started writing in and hoarding journals when she was 9 years old. She spent her teen and young adult years in a predominantly white environment, angsty, misunderstood, and desperately trying to assimilate. Events in her personal life and the biggest news stories of the early 2010s led to an awakening and the creation of her first novel, White Minority. Like many millennials, she's held a series of entry-level jobs that haven't put her master's degree to good use. Her ultimate goal in life is to not have to work, but now she does every job known to humankind as a stay-at-home mom. If she's not writing, working, or spending time with her family, she's baking sourdough pizza, watching Netflix, reading, or studying a foreign language. Talia, welcome to Between the Reads. Again.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate being here, and I could not praise you enough for what you're doing for indie authors. Sorry. I cannot praise you enough for what you're doing for indie authors. I feel like the first time I said it was like best. But no, I'm serious. I truly appreciate it. Like, I don't know. It makes me feel legit being here. You know what I mean?
Right.
I've listened to
I've
listened to your other interviews, and I don't know. It's just good. And I'm glad you're doing this because I just don't have the time to do other things. So,
well, thank you. And for everybody that doesn't know, we've been having some technical issues, so we have started this show like 4 different times.
Oh my gosh.
And we're just giggling all the way through it.
Oh my god. You got to put the outtake clips in, though. You got to throw in some outtake clips.
We gotta do something. Okay. So let's get right to it. Your book, White Minority, you describe it as Afrofuturism meets dystopia. So tell our readers a little bit about what White Minority is all about.
So it's now 250 years in the future, and there are a small population of white people living in domes scattered across the country, but we're just focused on one. Our main character is a descendant from the rich white people who survived this pandemic, and she is on top of the world. Everyone loves her. She's an actress, and she believes she has this bright future, but it is all not as bright as she would hope, because as you grow up, you learn that the world's not always so welcoming to who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So. Yes, and I mean, honestly, I was kind of giggling through this book. This book was therapeutic for me because the white people got killed by a virus and the rest that didn't went into the domes and were not part of the rest of the world. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's a very, very good book. So now in the back of the book, you mentioned that White Minority wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for your friend Lauren and your conversations across the racial divide. So let's elaborate on that a little bit.
Lauren and I became roommates. We were living in Florida, and, we were both from North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And, but we hadn't met previously before then. And so, she moved in with me. I was in grad school. And I guess she just had questions about, blackness and being black and, like, what my experience was like. And I don't know. I just felt comfortable talking to her, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I started a YouTube channel thinking I was going to be some YouTube star talking about race and stuff. And it didn't pan out because you've never seen me probably before, on YouTube, because those videos are gone. Don't look for them. They're gone. They've been deleted. But it was just really the first time that I had started talking about that with someone, like, outside of, really with anyone, honestly. But it was just the first time, and you know, I never really thought that I could talk to someone because I had white friends growing up, and that was just like door is shut. So. I don't know.
Let's talk a little bit more about that too, because in the back of your book, you also addressed other white people in your world and said that this book would not have existed without them because this is how you lived in their world. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Went to a predominantly white high school. My friends were white. I mean, they were black. There was a good amount of black people there, but there were maybe like 2 of us in some of my classes, and I was not friends with them because they were friends with the other black people. And I had my friends, but I still felt kind of excluded from them. I still felt like I couldn't really connect with them. Like just simple stuff, like, and I said before, like I went to a sleepover and I didn't want to wear anything over my hair because they weren't doing that. And I didn't want to talk about crushes. I didn't want to talk about my experiences. And I even remember, like, we had to do a project in class, and this like traumatized me. There were 2 things that traumatized me for life. So one was this kid talking about like affirmative action being trash, right?
Oh boy.
We had to do like our controversial topics presentation. So, abortion.
Right.
Affirmative action, because that's controversial, right? I don't remember what mine was, but he was talking about affirmative action, so I'm just sitting there like, oh my God. There's like, I think there were like 2 black people. There was like this African girl, I think she was Nigerian, and this other black dude who were in my class. And, I wasn't friends with them, so, but I'm just sitting there like feeling awkward. And then I did a presentation on something. God, what was it? It was like a more liberal oriented thing. And, they hounded me. Like, they asked me all these questions. I left the class crying. Okay.
Wow.
I had a kind of friend in there. She even asked me, like, if I was okay. Like, traumatized me from, like, speaking in public. And, the teacher after class is like, yeah, the teachers here are more liberal, but, everyone else, they have more conservative views. I'm like, yeah, you could help me out there just during class, but it's just that feeling of being invisible around white people, because it's like, it's not like there were specific direct racial comments made to me, but it's just that invisible feeling like nobody wants me there, or like I'm just inconveniently there, and
like you're in their world but you're not of their world,
right? Mentally I was mentally there were a lot of like messed up things that I thought and did and had internalized racism, and I'm trying to be more transparent about these things that I thought, because I know there's other people out there who still think, like, especially the black bourgeois.
Oh God, don't get me started on them.
I was mentally, I was there, like, thinking like, oh, if we only get a better education, or if only this, not knowing like all of these other things that were going on in the world. Like, I wasn't very worldly. I was just sheltered, and I thought, well, if I do all the things right, then I should be entitled to the American dream. But that's not really how it panned out. Heard from my mind. I mean, I love my daughter, I love my family, and all of those things, but what I thought I could be when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, what I thought I could have versus how things turned out, not that I regret any of it. I'm just saying it's not the same. Like, I have, like I said, I have a master's degree. Like, what the heck, bro? I should be making bank. But
yeah, and that's just the insidiousness. Now, you talk about the internalized racism, and that's just the insidiousness of white supremacy, because you don't even realize that they worse than colonizing land, they're colonizing your mind.
Right, absolutely.
And that's one of the most difficult things to try to overcome, because a lot of times you don't even realize that you have this, self-loathing until you are able to, I don't know, somehow remove yourself from their environment, or you have a friend who asks questions and then you start thinking about things, and then you're like, wow, I got some issues here that I need to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, and I've had Black friends in different situations. I've worked in nonprofits around Black people. Sorry, side topic. I worked in a nonprofit with it was like an all Black team. We had one Hispanic lady, but it was an all Black team, and that was like the first time I had a really different view, and I was in the community and I got to hear things that I had never heard or never thought, and that definitely contributed. It was just like a whole snowball effect of everything, and I'm grateful for those experiences, because I could be, you might call me Candace Owens, I shouldn't slander her, but I'm just saying. I don't mean to slander her, but I might have had those same views, maybe not as far, but some of those views might have been mine.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that, again, that's part of white supremacy, is that they, it's divide and conquer, and they put all these little seeds of doubt about your ability. And, and if you happen to be articulate and talented, then they call you exceptional and they remove you from the rest of the race, as if you're this anomaly, when really Black people are talented no matter who we are.
Right.
Because we've come from a history of having to make something out of nothing. So, but a lot of us don't have the opportunities to really, grow those talents and, and express ourselves in positive ways.
Right.
So let's talk about Tansy.
All right, let's try. Let's see how this goes. The world ain't ready for Tansy, clearly.
Really, they are not. Tansy is white. Tansy lives in the dome. She's what's called an isolationist. That's what they call the people who lived in the domes. Now, there are secrets about Tansy which we're not going to reveal because people need to learn that for themselves. But in the domes, she was very popular. She was in the acting club. She was an actress. She was, working towards, being part of the ABE, which is like their version of Hollywood. And, everybody loves her. Everybody wants to know her. And then she leaves to be reintegrated into this new society with the Isoji.
Yep.
And the, which is the Black tribes. And she's been told all her life in the dome that if you leave the dome, the Black people are violent. You will not survive. They will kill you. She leaves the domes and discovers this whole world, which we're going to talk about. But she goes to this high school and she becomes other. So let's talk a little bit about some of the struggles that she goes through in high school.
I mean, you think about any high school student, right? You want to go there, you want to make friends, and if you're like the popular girl, right, you know you got this, right? But her manner of being, her manner of existing is not socially acceptable, right? It's not. Am I giving away too much? I don't know. It's not. I mean, like, think about like any Black person who's too much, right? She's too much. And she finds this out relatively quickly, and it's just, you want to make friends, you want to date, right? You want to find your place, right? Your she's this actress, so she wants to keep doing this, and you want to find your place, and you're going to pursue she pursues these things, and think about how things go for Black people sometimes. You'll get an understanding of how it could go for Tansy, like, without me saying specific things that happen, like.
Yeah, there are things. What I like about this book is that it kind of inverts everything, and everything that Black people go through. We're not the standard of beauty. We're not aesthetically pleasing. We're not what they're looking for in Hollywood. All of that, invert it and put it on Tansy, and that's the world that she's experiencing in high school.
Right.
And I loved every minute.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? Like, going back, because I started this book a long time ago, 2013, 2015, something. And like these are just surface level things. Like, and you know, I'm working on the sequel now. I want to address some larger issues and larger things happening in the world, but her story, it's just surface level stuff. It's just the types of things she is went through in that book are the types of things like I went through that messed me up here. And that's just surface. Like, you know, I can generally go out in the world and I don't fear for my life personally. I have the privilege of being, you know, fairer skinned, and I can talk like a white person if I need to. Like, I have that privilege, right? My husband doesn't have that same privilege. You know what I mean? He has a whole different level of concerns. Tansy doesn't have those. I mean, yeah, I added some life or death concerns in there, but those life or death concerns aren't really, those aren't her concerns. It's just, I want to fit in. I want to have friends. I want to be liked. That's it. And that's tip of the iceberg. Of the iceberg.
And
So,
and
you know,
you allude to it because there's, and I'm not going to say what it is because it'll ruin the book. But I don't want to ruin the book for people. But it is, that really is the tip of the iceberg because everything unravels for her, and the things that she learns are world changers for her, absolute world changers. And like, you know, one big world changer for her is when she finally leaves the domes and she comes into Atlanta, and there's all this advanced technology. There's hover cars and the Intella tablets and, you know, all of this advanced technology. And she's learning that, you know, okay, they told me as soon as I came outside the domes, I was going to die.
Right.
Because all these violent black people.
Right.
And then she comes out, and these black people are living their best lives.
Right.
And they're not violent at all.
Right.
In fact, the people who are violent outside of the dome look a lot like Tansy. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And there's some metaphors in there too, because there's so much we could unpack in this book. I could spend hours talking to you about this book. When I was writing out questions, I had to sit and think because I was like, I want to get to the good stuff, but I didn't want to leave out anything important. But when I tell you that, I was like, "Ooh, that's a metaphor." My Kindle is lit up with highlights and notes from this book.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I'm glad
you enjoyed it. Like, you know, you put yourself out there as a writer, and you know, like. You just want people to, you know, like it. That's it. Please just that's how I feel.
It's a good book.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now the world you created in Atlanta that has the high-tech cars, it has the technology. Why did you choose to have such an advanced world for the black tribes? Okay, so they're not the black tribes. That's what Tansy believes. That's what Tansy believes that they are. Right.
I mean, it's 250 years from now. So the way capitalism operates today, the way our destruction of our environment operates, you know, the pillaging of the earth, you know, that has to come to an end. And I think when people come together and they're thinking about improving our lives, a lot can be done. Like, you know, even just researching now, like there's so much technology that's just not being invested in because we're too busy trying to extract profit. And it's not really about improving things for us. If it's not profitable, then, you know, what's the point? And right now, like, you know, with Ukraine and all that stuff and the oil and all of these things, it's like, well, if we had focused on, you know, sustainable technologies for cars and such, would we really care about, would it have gotten to this point? Like, I think that we have the technology in place and I, you know, I guess, I don't know, 250 years in the future, like I feel like should be way more advanced than it is. But at the same time, like how much do we really advance? You know, so I don't know. It was just, you know, I love science fiction and I love thinking about what's possible in the world if we just do things differently. Like, forget this, you know, how we do things now. So, and like, I don't even know, like, I don't know how to explain this. Like, the words are just.
I just like it because, you know, this is where the Afrofuturism aspect comes in, because in a lot of science fiction books that are mostly written by, well, up until recently, you know, written by, the majority of them are written by white men, you know, there were no black people in these futures.
Right. And,
you know, I think that's why I'm so obsessed with Afrofuturism, and that's why I like that you have this whole society that people, they think that they're, you know, animals, and they're out there in this advanced world with much more advanced technology than what was available in the domes, you know, and it shows that black people are in the future.
Right.
Which a lot of white people don't seem to understand. When they do futuristic things, you see very few black people, if you see any at all. So, you know, I like that your book takes that stand that, like, they are kind of just, you know, withering away in these domes, and this whole world and future has gone on around them.
I mean, and if you think about it, like, I'm just thinking now, you know, it's Black History Month. If you go back, who progressed us to this point? Like, all these little inventions, this traffic light, like, I mean, what would y'all be doing without the traffic light?
The refrigerator, the cell phone, closed circuit television, all of that is black people.
We brought it to this point. So why would we just sit back and twiddle our thumbs and shoot each other up when we don't have white people in the way anymore?
Right.
Like, we wouldn't. So, I mean, I just wanted a world where we could be safe and healthy and normal. And that was just be like, what would that be? You know, so I don't know. That's what I wanted.
And able to live up to our fullest potential without having to fight racism and all the obstacles that it has.
Right.
Absolutely. So the domes are these protected bubbles that only white people who survived the AEXTV4 virus live in.
Girl, don't tell me why I made it so long. I don't even know. But yeah, that's where they are. That's where they're living at.
And the AEX stands for American Extermination Virus. Did I get it right?
Yes.
American. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, they live in these domes, and I love the symbolism of these domes because they live in this protected world with their own truths about what is going on in the outside world. So how did you come up with the idea for the domes?
Nuclear fallout shelters. Because, like, I don't know if you remember that there was some show, like, Lives of the Super, Super Rich. And, like, I remember they're like, oh, these people are so rich, they have these secret, or maybe it was a whole show about the, like, nuclear fallout shelters being, like, converted into these just places, like, people could retreat if there was, like, a nuclear war. Oh, hey, look, World War III is on the horizon. But yeah, and I was just thinking, like, what would the white people do? But I didn't want to make it underground. I don't know, I just didn't want to make it underground. I wanted to make it above ground for some reason. I don't know. I don't know. I just thought it was, you know, like, just, I don't know. I just thought it would be interesting and cool. I mean, I guess, why does any science fiction writer do anything other than they would think it would be cool? Like,
right. I mean, the domes were pretty cool in description. You know, it's cool the way you could flip a switch and then they would open and you could see the sky, but you're still in the dome. I mean, they were pretty cool, you know, structures.
Yeah, so. I mean, but I don't know, like, I guess, is there a deeper meaning to that? To me, not really.
I told you, to me, there is. And that could be because I'm always deeply thinking about things, and that could be my writer's imagination. But yeah, to me, those domes represent the false reality that white people love to live in.
I mean,
and they make up their own worlds. They're you know, and they live safely within those worlds.
Right.
And then they make up stories about what's outside of their worlds. Even though a lot of times it's not true.
There you go.
So,
and, I mean, that was, for me, a big component is, like, the lies that they tell themselves and what they use, to keep their population in line, to keep the people doing what they want them to do, is just these stories, and people just eat it up. You know, it's what you know you've been told for however many generations, and you just no one's there to question it.
You
Nobody's
accept
saying
it.
Black Lives Matter. So
You accept it.
yep.
So the World Reclamation Project.
Yeah.
They want to reclaim some version of old America and to put it, as one of the characters said, return the world to a more sophisticated version of slavery. So why did you choose to put these bastards in here?
You mean the people or
the World Reclamation Project itself? Why did they have to be a part of this book?
Because it's not those types of ideas just kind of fester when they're in isolation. They're literally in isolation. You know, see, what can I say? I'm about to spoil stuff. Okay. You're literally in isolation, and there's still people who have these beliefs. There are still very wealthy people in the world today who have these beliefs, who currently use the capitalist system to keep people doing free labor through the prison industrial complex and all of that. And, you know, they are power hungry, and they've lost everything at this point. And, you know, you can't rule a continent when you're isolated to these little dome things. You know, you're stuck. So they want it back. Like, why be in servitude to people who you believe are lesser than you if you believe you are evolved, right? Because we left Africa and went to Europe and then we evolved, you know? If you believe you're better than everyone else, like, why would you not want to take that back?
Right. Yeah. And they made me so mad. Oh, they made me so mad. I was just like, oh, can we just, I'm going to move on.
I mean, there has to be a reckoning, right, with that. So that
right.
can't just...
There has to be. I mean, there has to be conflict, so I get it.
And so that's why there's book 2. That's why there's going to be a book 2, because I have to deal with them.
Yay!
Some more. So
that's gonna be a beast.
You know, it's actually, see, I can't even say really what it's about without like spoiling it.
No. But when we get off this video, when we're not recording, you're gonna tell me.
I'll tell you what I'll tell you. But it's still a work in progress, and so we're still working out kinks. So we're not there yet. It's about halfway written.
Okay,
but it's hard. Like, you know, I'm trying to fix racism here in the world. Right. Like, it hasn't been fixed in real life. All these brains, like, who am I? You know, I don't know. Just
it has to start somewhere. So there's an overall theme of truth in this book. In the world outside of the dome, suppressing the truth is akin to treason.
Yes.
But many of the isolationists don't know about or don't want to face an obvious truth because of its implications.
Right.
But by the same token, some of the Isoji don't want to accept some of the truths about some of the isolationists. So why did you choose to make this battle of truth, this conflict of truth, part of the message of the book?
Well, truth is subjective, obviously. I mean, it's not really like there's, what's that saying? There's my side and your side, and then there's the truth, right? And so if you can have the objective truth, like think about for a minute, if we had the objective truth of what happened during the transatlantic slave trade and during slavery and Jim Crow, if we had the objective truth, if we could all watch it happen on a movie, even that, people aren't going to see the same thing. But like, to me, I think knowing what the absolute truth is would clear up some of this society's problems. If everyone in school was taught actual history and not some whitewashed version of history, I don't think the structures in place in our society could continue to exist in the way that they are. And obviously the isolationers have their own, this microcosm of America, basically, set of beliefs. But you know, the Isoji, the Isojians, they believe that their truth is the truth, you know, but they haven't had to directly deal with people who disagree, a race of people who disagree with them. At this point, at least in the collective memory. And so how can I say
that's right. I know. It's so hard. Now, how did you come up with the name Isogians?
See, I knew you were going to ask that question. I only knew because I went back and looked at some of your other interviews to see what kind of questions you'd ask. Anyway, so I wanted the name of the nation to have to do with rebirth and revival. And, I just went and, I was looking up, African words because I don't speak any African languages whatsoever. And so I could be pronouncing it totally wrong as somebody out there, but Isoji is a Yoruba word for revival, I believe. Wait, let me go check because I want to be 100% certain because I actually went and pulled out my research notes from like a billion years ago to make sure I said this right. Where'd it go? No, I'm serious.
I know you are.
Yeah, so it's Yoruba for revival. There we go. I promise you. And now if that's wrong, I will eat my words. But at least as far as the internet could tell me, that's what I surmised. And so the Isoji Nation is really just a revival of Black people because right now we're in a state of a lot of us are not thriving. Some of us are thriving. Some of us are having a terrible, terrible time. Try not to cuss on your show.
Please, have you not heard my episodes? I cuss all the time.
I know, but my parents, I'm going to send this to my parents so they can see it. I don't want them to hear me.
Okay, I'll curse for you.
You're fine. You're fine. Just me. We're not, revived. And I, in a way, like I wanted the country to feel like a place of, I guess kind of like a renaissance in a way, but like on a national scale, and that everyone, like, this is a revival of the Black people who were brought over, and as slaves so long ago. And we have our own nation and our own country and our own life now. And we can live in peace and just be and explore and just grow. And that's something kind of like, as a person living in America, like I really long for that, and just to just feel like I belong to a community and to a nation, and we're so fractured, I think, in many ways, and
yeah,
I don't know,
absolutely. So. Now, and this next one isn't a question, just more of an observation. But I love how the isolationists were not allowed to be a part of any media whatsoever.
Oh yeah, no, they're done. No, like some people might say this is like revenge fiction, and I guess I kind of see how it is.
It kind of is, but I love it.
But I mean, the reality is that they, at present, in our present day, that is their method of control. It's, I mean, through the media. That's really the only way. Like, what they put shows on, the minstrel shows back in the day, newspaper advertisements. Now it's TV, like. Y'all need to just sit down and be quiet,
right,
and learn something before you open up your mouth. Like,
right, I love this. I love this. I was like, yes, they can't be a part of media at all. Good. Done. Y'all out of here. Go. Your history has shown what y'all do with the media. You're not allowed to have it anymore. I just love that.
Thank you. Thank you. You have not missed any detail.
Oh no, honey. I told you I could do like a 4-hour show talking about your book, but I would have to tell people there's going to be spoilers. So if you want the 4-hour version, either read the book beforehand or just understand that you're going to know a lot of what. I mean, that's why I had to tailor my questions.
Okay.
Now, although we do see the world flipped on its head, and Tansy's dealing with reverse struggles of what Black people deal with on a daily basis today, you didn't choose to just show her side of the story and make things, for lack of a better term, black and white. You showed, is it Maja? Is that how you say? Okay, Maja, who doesn't at all want the isolationists around because she says they will always be liars and thieves. And then you have Soraya and Ren, who have their issues with Tansy, but they're willing to try and educate her and find a way forward.
Right.
And you even have Rook, who tells Tansy that, the Asogi don't worry about race the way that white people do. So why did you feel it was important to include these type of complexities in the book?
It's real life, man. It's just real life. Like, I have my friend Lauren, right? I'm not saying that my friends are like actual characters in the book, but I have my friend Lauren who's open to learning and understanding the complexities, right? And then there's people who are just loud mouths and they just don't, they already have their minds made up, and it doesn't matter. You could show them the sky is blue and they say, no, that it's not. That's green. Okay. That's just how the world is. Like, that's
right.
And that's, that's what I experience. You have people like in the middle, you have people who are more ambivalent. Like, it's just, it's all over the place. But that's the world, and like the Soji are not going to be like one mind. They might have the same education, but they're still not one mind. And I would say the isolationers are more one mind, but even they're not. You know what I mean? Some people, some of them, they just want to live. They're tired of this and they just want to live. And some, they're still power hungry. They don't have everything they want. They need more. So.
Now, in the story, Black people received reparations, in a sense, when the virus began killing all the white people. So just explain a little bit about how Black people got reparations in this book.
It's not really like actual reparations. It's more like...
No, but kind of like it's more karma reparations.
Yeah, like y'all took everything. You tried to kill us. You actually, like, some crazy people actually tried to do it. And it just bounced right back in your face. And you lost everything. And, people lost their lives. You couldn't continue to own this land. And Black people, in a sense, were able to reclaim what the land that they toiled on for centuries. Just take it back. It's ours now. Now, there was a struggle that, I don't go a lot into that period between after the virus and until a rebirth of a modern society. I don't go a lot into that, but book 2 hopefully will give us more of a sense of what that is, what that picture looks like. But we just were able to get it back because the white people are out of the way. Because that's at the end of the day, that's really all it is. Like, we just need you out of the way. Just leave us alone.
Just move. Just go somewhere.
So that's really what that was about, I guess.
Now, another poignant point made by one of the characters was that the American education system is a brainwashing engine whose purpose evolved from keeping the poor under control to keeping the power in the hands of a smaller few.
Yes.
Which is pretty much really what the education system is about today. So why did you choose to kind of bring that issue into the book?
Because that's how education is how we find our truths. And in some regard, and how we have our beliefs, right? So, I came up all white high school, and, I knew no history before slavery. No history really before slavery. Oh, we were in Africa. What were we doing in Africa? I don't know. Probably not much. We were there existing and living. And yeah, there was Egypt, but that's only one country. Like, world history, we didn't even touch Egypt. I don't even think we didn't touch Asia. We did like Mesopotamia, Greece, maybe Native Americans for like 5 minutes with like long houses and such. But that's all I knew. Now, if I knew there was a whole world out there, right, of people, Black people doing things and giving, being the education center for Greece and Ethiopia and all these places, if I even so much knew that existed, how would my mind have been different? How would I have progressed forward from being a 15-year-old versus figuring these things out in my mid-20s? Like, that's 10 years of time that I could have done something different with, knowing something different.
Absolutely.
And American education, like, if you think black people are nothing and they were just hopping around in the bush till we brought them over and at least gave them some work to do because they were just being lazy over there, right?
Right, like, nah, that's not how it happens.
But I mean, like, if that's what you think, right?
Right.
And you know, you come, if that's what you believe, how does that impact the rest of your life? And that's what the education system is. They could tell the truth. They could tell what happened. They're just choosing not to. And
because it would affect our self-esteem in a positive way, and they don't want us to have good self-esteem because they want us to stay here while they're here.
It's easy if you get into if you become a bougie black person, right, and you have the wealth, and you believe like, oh, anybody can do this. All you need is a good education, and and you just need to work hard at a good education. That's all you need, right? So let's just give some scholarships to these kids. It's like you don't realize how deep it goes. You don't know how deep it goes. You can't look back and see, like, we were already great. You just see, well, it was hard. We marched, we did all these things, and now we're good now. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And you don't see that whole picture anymore. So, you know, in the story, right, you said bring it to the even smaller few. So obviously the isolationers want to use education system to their advantage, because that's, I mean, what do they have really other than the narrative that they tell themselves and others about how the world is. That's all they have at this point is this story. That's all they have. They don't have anything else. They have no tech. They have no outside resources. You know, they have nothing. But they have this, and obviously, you know, that's how power works. It just consolidates and consolidates until, you know, one person's on the top. That's why there were kings for so long. That's why it's a president, right? So,
yep.
I don't know. I went on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. Absolutely the right answer.
Okay.
So now, you also dealt with some touchy topics in relation to the pandemic and vaccines. And in fact, the whole story only happens because of a pandemic.
Yes.
So were you worried while you were writing this book that people may not be ready to read about that or receive it well? Well, this whole book was written way before any of this ever happened. Get out! What? Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I was kind of like, I'm not even kidding. I started writing this like right after grad school. That was 2013, 2014, 2015. I had this book on, you know, for a really long time. I actually probably finished, the first time I could probably really say I was finished was before my daughter was born. Like, I had to have it finished, and then I did edits and stuff. So this was before, this was written way before. And so when the pandemic happened at 2020, I was just starting to get professional editing and all of that.
Wow.
And I was like, why now?
Like, damn it.
You know, and then, you know, I went through all of that, and then, you know, I opened up the first part of the book for free, like the first 100 pages or so. And that, you know, and that was all right, because it wasn't like, but then when was that, you know, the thing when George Floyd was.
That was 2020.
That was also 2020?
That was one of the things that kind of blew up.
And then I was like, man, like, my story just has all these problems, and like, I don't want people to think I wrote it because of what was happening in the world, because like, I swear to you, I all of this.
So you're like H.G. Wells. You predicted the future a little bit.
If only I had published the book like 5 years ago, you know. But it's honestly, like, it's expensive being an indie author, and you know, and
absolutely,
I wanted to give it the full treatment, and that takes a couple tax refunds, a couple years in a row to get that done. Like, you know, so is why it took so long. But so hopefully people aren't like, oh, I don't want to read about a pandemic. Like, oh.
Listen, it was good. It's good.
Thank you.
You have to read it. You have to read it.
Thank you.
Now, this book really taps into the heart of what is wrong with race relations in this country, in my opinion. What were some of the feelings you experienced while you were writing it?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I honestly, it's been in a process for so long. Like, I don't think that I was necessarily in pain, even though some of these experiences vis-a-vis completely changed were experiences that I had. And maybe because even at the time, like, I didn't see them as, like, I was just beginning to see them as racist experiences, and maybe I processed it. And, like, I think I just more had fun, like, being Maja and just being this horrible person and, like, just unleashing. It was more about unleashing the pain. Not pain, but it was just kind of like
the pent-up anger.
Yeah, white people see all this crap that I had to put up with. Like, it was more about that than about me, like, oh, I had all these racist things happen to me, all these microaggressions. It wasn't even that kind of thing. It was more like, it was more exploratory. Like, what would the world be like if Black people were running the show and a white person had to experience racism? I mean, it was exploratory and revengey and ragey, maybe, but not really so much. Not sad. I know, like, some authors are like, oh, it was so hard.
No, definitely not sad. I could see the feelings that you at least I could feel. I'm like, yes, that had to be so vindicating to be able to write someone like Maja, because Maja was a beast. She didn't take any shit. She really didn't. And she told Tansy about herself in no uncertain terms and was unapologetic about it. And I love it, personally. But then you kind of ruined it a little bit for me, because then you had Soraya and Ren being all reasonable, talking about, no, you're extreme. I'm like, no, that's what she deserves, because that's 400 years of karma coming back on this.
But I mean, those are her friends, though. So they see, like, I guess you can have friends who see you, like, as an individual and not as,
black or white or whatever. And it's good to have friends like that. And I was living in my little fantasy for a little while, and then you took me out of it.
I'm sorry. But, I think they have their own feelings about everything. And I think Ren especially, like, she is more introspective about things, and I can't really ruin it because I want to say what I want to say, but now I gotta.
Right? Yeah. Ren is definitely, she's more, like I said, she is trying to help Tansy see the error of some of her ways and some of her thinking. But at the same time, she's still kind of walled off because they still don't invite Tansy to things and all of that. So it's a complicated situation.
I mean, and at least for me, at the end of the day, like, how, and remember, we were talking about, my friend, like, how can we ever have change if nobody is willing to have an uncomfortable conversation where somebody says or done something uncomfortable and someone says something about that and you are willing to forgive them or at least not cancel them entirely, because, like, if your friend instantly cancels you for something, right, why would you change after that?
Right.
And maybe it might be difficult to learn or understand, but and on one hand, we have to have these conversations, because if we don't have these conversations, if white people aren't willing to learn, and if Black people aren't willing to at least open ourselves up to talk about our experiences, nothing is going to change. Like, we're lucky social media exists, or George Floyd would have just been
another Black man being killed in the thousands of Black men that have been killed.
Right. And nobody would know, and nobody would be able to witness that for their own eyes. And I think sometimes it might be easier hearing about an experience from a friend, like, look, hey, you know, this thing happened to me and it was really painful, versus someone far away whose circumstances you can't relate to. Like, if they think like this would fix everything, right? If they thought like, oh, they're all good people, they just have difficult circumstances, maybe they might think differently. But we're not friends, you know. We don't all want to be that one black friend who has to service every white person. I mean, it's like it's such a complicated situation.
It is a complicated situation.
But you have to be able to have that conversation. I think having the conversations I had with my friend, like, I didn't know how open she could be, right? Until we really got talking. You know what I mean? Like, I would have never known that. And I would have never been able to see, you know, how people can be allies. Like, I would have never been able to see that. And I think, you know, I mean, that's a whole other thing, but.
Right.
I mean, not on her fault, but there's a whole social media ally thing and all this stuff.
Yeah, we can't just be performative allies. But again, like you said, that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
Okay, so here's a trick question. You ready?
Oh, boy.
Who are you hoping will be your larger audience with this book? Black people or white people? I told you it was a trick question.
Okay. Maybe when I was writing it, I was thinking, like, you know, white people need to read this so they can know and understand all the BS that we had to deal with. Okay? That's what I was thinking. I think when I was writing it, I was thinking that. But it would be nice. It would be nice if white people could read it and maybe gain some compassion and just gain some understanding of like I said, tip of the iceberg things that we deal with. Is that realistic?
Hey, anything can happen.
I know, but you know, I think black people tend to relate to the story more because it's things that they've experienced, even just like on a surface level, you know. Who do I want to be the audience? You know, anyone who wants to learn what it's like being a one of the good black ones, right? You should read this book, you know? Like, that's, I mean, that I guess is ideal, but sure, it'd be great to have white people read my book, but I'm not in a position right now in my life where I'm like, I'm trying to seek acceptance from the white community as a whole. I did that for a very long time, and it is very damaging to my
It's
social
exhausting,
esteem.
and it ain't worth it.
So if y'all want to read my book, go for it. I'll be happy to be in dialogue with you. But if you don't, I understand, you know, like I said I wanted to sell 100,000 books. That was my...
Well, we gonna make it happen.
That was my goal in life, so we'll see. Maybe I have to write 2 books to get it done, or a bunch.
We gonna make it happen.
We gonna make it happen.
We gonna make it happen.
You know.
So you are self-published.
Yes.
Tell us why you chose that route.
Oh, it was so hard. It wasn't. The reason why I'm self-published is because I don't like people telling me what to do. I was in the 5th grade, and I repeat this story all the time. I was in the 5th grade, and you know, DARE, drug. What was that program? The DARE program? I don't forget.
Yeah,
what the
DARE program. It was something against something.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about, though.
I was in the 5th grade. We had to write a little essay about this program. We were like finishing the program. I had to write an essay. We had a substitute teacher that day, and that substitute teacher was telling me, "Oh, you need to change this, and you need to do this to your essay." And I was like, "Who is this person telling me what I need to do?" Guess what? I won the little award for having the best essay or whatever. And like from that time forward, I think it cemented in my mind, like, I don't want people telling me what to do with my story. And you know, when you're in grad school, and so that was part of it. So then I went through grad school right before I wrote this book. And when you're in grad school, there's like things you have to do, institutions you have to uphold.
You must appease the whiteness of grad school, yes. And
you know,
appease the theologies of everything that they're teaching.
Right. And, I had a black thesis advisor.
Mm-hmm.
But there were things that I had in my book that I had to take out. Or at least my thesis, right? Because it was a fiction piece. There were things in my piece that I was told that, you need to take this out. And I didn't like that. And at the time I was just, finding my voice and I just wanted to do it my way. I want to creative control. And, as an author, you got, you have to be able to take criticism and you have to be able to revise things. And there's still things I think about, like, what, maybe I should have done this differently at this point. Like, there's still things that I think about, like, well, maybe I should have listened to this person. But, I wanted creative control. And I knew that if I submitted it to a predominantly white-owned institution, I don't know that I could have gotten away with some of the things that I don't know that it would have been acceptable. Like now it's different, but I wouldn't have been submitting this now. I would have been submitting this in 2015, 2016 to an agent, not 2020 when when suddenly this has the potential to be profitable to them because it touches on issues that are happening now, and I could have still gone that way, but I had already decided, like, this is my project and I want to do it my way. And I want to start a publishing company and I want to publish other authors and I want to uplift our voices and keep it authentic to what we want and not, I posted this on Instagram, make it palatable to the white gaze.
Yes.
Because that's what it is. Why do we have so few darker skinned main characters on television programs? Why is everyone, my skin color or lighter? Why? I feel represented, at least in terms of, black girls on TV, but they're not even all black. They're half of the time they're mixed with something else. No offense to them. That's a whole different struggle. That's a whole different life. But,
yep.
That's palatable.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, you went with a company called Make Your Mark Publishing and Miss Monique Mensah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
What would you say is one of the most valuable things you learned working with her?
And I think I said this in my thing, but she's just get it done. Like, and when I was starting this process, like, I was kind of like, oh, let me think about this. And she was just get it done. Just like, let's just move forward. Let's not like stand around and waffle and go back and forth and be indecisive. And not that she, criticized me in any way, but she was very business and very like kind of moving me along. And I had to step up my game in order to participate in the publishing process. Right. I couldn't just kind of like, what should I do next? Like, I had to stay on task and I had to, reply to emails, and it elevated me to a place of thinking more in a business mindset instead of me just being a creative and being flaky and all the, things that creatives are notorious for.
Absolutely.
But she just moved me in towards, like, she's a badass, in my opinion. And just to get her done.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how to explain it really. Like, I can be indecisive. It takes me a long time to just do social media posts and, should I say it this way? Like, what are people going to think? Like,
right. And she's like, nope, stop, do it.
Yeah. Like, if you want to participate in this process, if you want to be an indie author, you have to be prepared for the business part and not being scared to send every single email, or if you're scared, just send the email anyway.
Yep.
Like, and nobody's looking that, hopefully. If they are, then they need to get a life. But nobody's looking at you that closely, hopefully.
Right.
Like, oh, why did she say to instead of in? It just, the things that slow me down, like working with her kind of helped me speed up in some ways. I'm rambling.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not. So what was one of the most significant obstacles that you overcame self-publishing while you're doing the whole self-publishing journey?
Significant obstacles.
Was there, like,
Putting myself out there, like I used to have a blog. I've been blogging on and off for a long time, and like I would be very scared to say things in public, just like about my opinions about stuff, because I got to think about employability, and like now it's just kind of I can have my opinion and I can put myself out there, and just putting my book out there with its unafraid title, you know, just putting it out there and like and telling people, hey, I did this thing, like, can you please look at it? Can you please look at it? Just even just being able to go out and do that and put myself in a public space. You know, emailing you to say, hey, can I be on your show?
You sure did.
just putting myself out there, like, you know, writing's like being naked in front of people. Like, these are all these things were in my head, and now everyone can see them. Like, they're not private anymore. Right. You know, just doing that, and obviously, the financial part of going through this whole process, that was another big obstacle. But you know, I don't know. It's a lot of obstacles. Yeah.
But you overcame them, and here you are.
Here I am. Still more to go, but, you know.
So you hinted at it a little bit, but what's next for you in the writing world?
Book 2. I want to explore this world more. There's, you know, big societal issues. You know, if white people come out the domes, some of them are not cool with this, with the World Reclamation Project. You know, that has to be dealt with. How is a black society going to handle having white people out here invading their world that they were basically just given to because of karma? They didn't earn it, really. They earned it in the sense that they made their society, but they didn't take it back, which is what, you know, white people are so afraid of today, that we'll just start taking stuff. We'll just start taking it back. You know, that's why they're afraid of people getting angry and destroying communities and things. These people didn't take it back. They got it back from karma, but do they deserve it? Have they earned it? And, you know, are we going to be able to do better than the predecessors of the people who owned the land mass, which is now called America? Can we do better? That is the question. And so that's, I guess, what I'm addressing in the next book. I guess that doesn't really spoil anything.
No, of course not. No. Do you have a working title?
Yeah, I have a title. I'm pretty sure it's going to stay the title.
Do you want to share or no?
Should I? No, I'll tell you. I don't know. I'll tell you later. It hasn't been. Unless you want exclusive access.
I mean, you know.
Okay, so no, I'm not going to share it now because I'm not even done writing the book. I have to at least be done with the book. If you want to do a thing when you can have like exclusive access, we can talk about that. But
I would love to have exclusive access to the second book. Absolutely.
Okay. But no, I'm just saying, like, yeah. So it's. How can I say this without like revealing too much? Like, there's one perspective, and then there's another perspective.
Okay.
So this is the other perspective.
Okay.
Maybe you can guess what that means. I can tell you later. I mean, it's not that I have a problem talking about it, but I'm just not publicizing it yet.
Right.
But I think that's something to be considered. Like, have we truly earned the right to dictate our future? Can we do it? Can we as people do it? Like, if they said, you know what, forget it, we're all moving to Europe, we're gone, peace out. Could we handle it, or would this place be in complete shambles? Like, what would happen?
We could handle it. We could handle it.
That's what we say, but
we run this. We run this economy. We run this country. I let them go. Let them go. We can do it.
I hope so.
It would be rough the first couple of years because black folks don't like to get along when it comes to like following orders and But I think we could do it. So I think we could do it. But the first few years would be rough because there would be decompressing and there would be a lot of PTSD that would have to be dealt with.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's a lot that has, and that's, that's that time that I didn't write about. But,
Okay. So, tell us about Purple Cabbage.
This is just, okay, so it kind of, when I was working with Monique and she said, do you have an imprint? And I had an idea, like I wanted to call it something. I didn't know at the time. Why is it Purple Cabbage? Because I was cutting a red cabbage, coincidentally, one day. And I was like, oh, this would make a cool publishing company name. Let's go with it. Yeah, that's literally how I came up with it. Purple's my favorite color. Cabbage is good for you. Ah, see?
Oh, I love you. You see my logo? It's purple and orange.
There you go. Yeah, purple's my favorite color. Cabbage is good for you. It's healthy, and seasoned the right way, it can taste good. So, I don't know. I just wanted to do a publishing company. I needed to imprint, so we just went with that. And then I started, I wanted to make t-shirts. And then, so I started making t-shirts. And I wanted writer t-shirts. So I had signed up for Amazon merch, right? And they rejected me like right away. And I was like, dang it, no, but I'm just going to do this anyway. I'm going to do it my way. I'm on Amazon merch, by the way, now. So some of these are on Amazon and they're mine. And now there's copycat. And I've seen copycats after I did them. That's what I get for not trademarking. But anyway. Yeah. And so then I made writer t-shirts. And I was like, well, I should make reader t-shirts because, I really want to uplift indie authors. But it's really just about science fiction and speculative fiction and just indie authors and just I have my website, I have my t-shirts on there and stuff, to raise money or I don't know. But it's really eventually one day when I can afford to publish other authors, right? It'll just be about uplifting Black people.
Yeah, speculative fiction and coming of age, young adult novels.
And at least for me, like looking for people say, hey, do you want to do a review? Like, it's hard to find this particular interest group, science fiction, speculative fiction. Everybody's doing the fantasy thing now, and I understand, and I like fantasy, and I respect fantasy. I still love science fiction. I'm not like a space science fiction type person. I'm more like soft political science fiction. And so I just want to open up space for that. To exist and just make a place for me and make a place for other people who are interested in doing that sort of thing. So maybe it'll be a publishing company. Maybe it'll be a indie co-op. I don't know yet. We'll see.
All right.
So, yeah.
So where can readers find your books, Talia?
Okay. Right now, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble only has a paperback, though. Kobo, where else?
Purple Cabbage.
Purple Cabbage, you can buy it straight off my website, the EPUB. There was a whole bunch of paper shortages and all these things, so I had some difficulty. I've been having some difficulty getting physical copies to sign to mail out to people, so that should be resolved soon. And when that's resolved, I'll announce it or something. But Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, I think those are like the main places.
Okay.
Requested at your library, so Overdraft.
Yes.
Is it Overdraft? No, it's not Overdraft. What's it called? Something, whatever the library comes, Libby.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Requested at your library, so the libraries want to have it at their library. Because I would love to be in libraries. I think that's very important for accessibility. So we're working on that, but these things take time.
And where can we find you on social media?
Talia Clay Writes Books on Instagram, where I live 90% of the time. TikTok, Talia Clay writes books. I have a Twitter, Talia Clay, but I never post, but I should. I don't know how to use Twitter still. I have a Facebook page, but it's just copycats from Instagram. I don't use Facebook. I don't know a lot of people on Facebook. What other social? That's the main ones. My website, I have a website, taliaclay.com. I do blog occasionally. You can go back and read stuff that I wrote on my blog.
Okay, and Talia is spelled Talia for everyone who may be wondering and listening out there. All right, well, we have come to the end of our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here, and this is super amazing, and I want to do this. I want to do this more.
Absolutely,
this is great. Absolutely. I love this. No, I like this. This is nice. It's not as scary towards the end. I'm less nervous now.
I told you. But thank you so much for sharing your time and your talents with us today.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here so much. And Booze and Bros, you know how I do. At the end of every show, I leave you with a quote. And our quote today comes from the book White Minority by our amazing author and guest, Talia Clay. And she writes, "History is really complicated, and there's tons of hurt and pain." Until next time, y'all, you know what to do. Grab a book and read, and I'm out. Thanks for lending me your ear today. If you enjoyed this content, please head over to betweenthereads.com and leave a rating for the show. While you're there, consider supporting this independent podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/betweenthereads. Join us next week for another great episode.